Hey guys and gals, this is Real Appalachia with Shane
and Melody.
And today we're going to continue with our Legends and Folklore series that we started recently, and it's going very well so far. We're happy with that, so thank you for your feedback and comments and suggestions.
Yes, thank you. And keep on liking, keep on sharing.
Yes, and subscribing, whatever you do to help support us, and we appreciate it all.
Yes.
Today's story, Melody's going to get into a little bit about the Major Graham Mansion, and that's a story very near and dear to both of our hearts, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of like our tradition thing to go through the haunted house now, right? The haunted attraction that it is. But you've actually taken a tour without it being haunted, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Several years ago, they had I don't know what it was, some kind of special event, and they could come up there. They had some paranormal investigators, which I'm not, but I enjoyed watching people do that.
Yeah.
And they showed a little bit of parts of the house that you don't get to see during the haunted tour.
I would love that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really jealous I missed out on that.
You should be, because I got some killer pictures that we'll share here in this video. But
Yes. And I just love these stories. So it's not just really one story. There are several stories tied into this place, and they're all equally disturbing and spooky. So the story of the Major Graham Mansion actually starts before the mansion was even built. So there was a squire by the name of David Graham who purchased 2,000 acres of land in Wythe County in 1826. But before he made that purchase, the land was kind of seen by the community as being spoiled soil.
that's catchy.
Yeah.
I like that.
I coined that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's great. I think I trademarked that. That's awesome. Spoiled soil. Sounds ominous.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
So they kind of saw it as cursed and bloody land, and nobody really wanted it, but there's kind of some speculation there of why he did purchase the land. Just didn't care or didn't know about it or whatever, but they say that it was cursed because the previous owner, Joseph Baker, he had a different house on that same land, and apparently he was very mean to his slaves. He mistreated them. He would keep them locked in the basement at night and then was very abusive to them during the day. And one night, two of his slaves, Sam and Bob, they escaped and they actually murdered Joseph with an axe and then threw his body into a moonshine barrel and went on the run. Now they were captured and they were brought back to that property and were hung from a tree that was still standing as of a few years ago. I'm not sure if it still is, but my guess would probably be so if they had left it standing that long.
Yeah, I think we would have heard if it hadn't been.
Yeah. So a lot of stories have been told there that of people seeing those phantom slaves, the slave spirits, and obviously they were very tortured spirits. So they didn't really go into that with a good start. But David Graham built this beautiful mansion in 4 different sections, and he named it for his firstborn son, Major Graham. So that's why it's called Major Graham's Mansion. So the house was built in 4 different sections, like I said. The first part was the rear section that's kind of like a wood cabin looking structure, and from what we both understand, it was built over the old basement where Joseph had kept his slaves.
Yeah, there's still in there when I toured it during the day. There's they call it the stairway to nowhere, or steps to nowhere, and it's just underground. It leads right into the side of the house. But if you walked up them, you'd just walk into a wall.
Yeah,
that's pretty neat to see.
And we've actually been through that basement for the haunted house too. And I'm telling you, that's the creepiest part for me. I think, as far as, you know, not entertainment, but actually being creepy.
Yeah, just because of true horror.
Yeah.
The lives lived were horrific, yes. And then they add these stories to it.
Yeah. So they added on to the wood cabin in 1855, and as they would have children, they would build on more and more. And Major Graham, when he got out of the Civil War, he also kind of took over his father's steel business, come into some money, and would add on those pretty details that we see out on the outside of the building, the twirly cues that I love and all that. So like I said, Major Graham was in the Civil War, and it's rumored that it was possibly a recovery center for Civil War soldiers, Confederate soldiers there during that time. And historians also believe that the 3rd floor served as planning for the Confederate generals to plan their attacks. So So there's been a lot of Confederate soldier spirits seen on this property as well, on the outside and inside the house, especially that third floor.
Yeah, they call that the Confederate room now. That's when they show you the house. It's kind of a neat thing to see.
Yeah, I saw that they called it that, so that was really neat. So, Major's mother, David's wife, was Martha, and she struggled with a lot of depression, it seemed like. And back in those days, people didn't handle it like they do now, and they were just seen as crazy and locked them away, and that's what David did. Apparently, from what I've read, he was a very angry man also, and he liked to drink. So he would lock his wife away in certain bedrooms, and he would actually lock her in the basement as well. And they have proof of that because she would etch her name and initials and dates in there, and they can actually see some of that in how long she was in there by the dates that she scribbled on. And I know that you saw some of that too.
Yeah, they talked about that. They theorized that she did that to fight her own mental illness.
Yeah.
She was trying to remember.
Yeah, because it did develop beyond depression. She did go insane while living there. And
those etchings, like I said, they're still there in the windows and some of the places. And it's really, when you see it, it just is powerful. And we've got the pictures we'll show here, and it's very powerful to see that, to think, somebody struggling with mental illness and all that. It's just so many horrors have happened at that mansion. It's
really.
Just so every floor there's something.
And that brings me on to the next horror. The ghost that's seen most often is a little girl named Clara, and from what I've read, there's been some investigations there by ghost hunters on the Sci-Fi Channel, and also the Virginia Paranormal Society investigated, and they actually got voice recordings, and some was of like a little girl's voice. But apparently Major's sister Betty she found this little girl that was orphaned by the Civil War, and she took her in despite her parents not wanting her to, or I guess despite David not wanting her to, because Martha wasn't in the right state of mind to make any of those decisions. But he didn't want her to keep this little orphan girl, so she would hide her away in her bedroom, and she would tutor her in the classroom. Now, there's been some things I read too that said Betty and her sister were kind of mean to this little girl, that they were kind of overbearing and mistreated her. I'm not really sure about that, but I do know that she died of some kind of lung illness one winter, and Betty actually wrapped her body up in sheets and put her in the closet of the classroom until the ground thawed out in the spring, so that she could bury her in a shallow grave on that property. I mean, to me, that's just horrific.
That's the thing. That room. There's when you step in there, it's just it has a vibe about it for sure. If you believe in vibes.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't think
you just get a bad, eerie feeling.
Yeah, you do, and then to hear that you don't think about how difficult it would be to bury somebody, and really bad weather that we get in this area.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how old Betty would have been at that age, but I mean, that's kind of, and I don't know about those reports, but I could kind of see if it was kind of an older girl, but not an adult yet, of kind of, I have this child of my own that I can boss around, and just, some girls are kind of like that sometimes. So it sounds like Clara just had a really hard life, and she hasn't left the house, from what many say. They say that you can roll a ball, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of stops or bounces, or...
Yeah, they did that while I was there. They call it, the ball test, I think it was, and they had a few balls landing on the floor, and of course nothing happened when I was there, but I don't know what I would have done, jumped off the roof probably, in the next door story, but it was just that there's a presence in that room, and then they said that several people have mentioned that ball roll out of nowhere and be just sitting on the floor and just start moving, and you don't want.
It's a little eerie.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. So beyond the Graham family, there are also other families and people that live there and are said to haunt this mansion. One was a law professor who is said to be very eccentric. He apparently liked to run around the house naked, and he didn't care much for bathing. But one thing he did care about was buzzard eggs. He loved eating buzzard eggs. So apparently he had a pretty rank smell to him. And people have actually reported smelling his spirit.
Really?
Like I don't even know what buzzard eggs smell like.
Can't be good.
It can't be good, no. So people have said to smell a very putrid smell, and that is supposed to be his spirit. But he was a very eccentric character, and there were rumors at one point that there were 1 million books in that house because of him, but it was actually around 100,000, and I think they got donated to like UVA or Virginia Tech, one local school.
Yeah.
So I know that Betty Graham actually has a diary at UVA, and I would love to get my hands on that. That'd be really interesting. So I don't know if she talks about Claire or not, but if so, that would be especially interesting.
Yeah, I would love to know more about that story because it's just,
Me too. To me, that's the most disturbing, but there is more. There's also been sightings of what they call the Weeping Bride, or the Lady in the Veil. And apparently she stands at one of the bedroom windows on the second floor, and they see her dressed in the bridal clothes looking out the window and crying. And it's kind of speculated, but nobody really knows for sure who this is or what, but they're kind of speculating that maybe her husband her fiance had went off to a war and never returned, so she's there at the window looking for her groom. I don't know, nobody really knows, but that's pretty creepy, right?
Yeah.
There was also reports of a 7-foot tall phantom that was kind of off the road beside of the house a little bit, but ghost hunters ruled that was an optical illusion. I don't know. I thought that was pretty creepy. Most people, multiple people have seen a 7-foot tall phantom.
Yeah, that
freaks me out.
We saw one at the haunted house that was about 7 foot tall, and it was pretty creepy, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of like a Slender Man kind of thing, if you know what that is. It really creeped us out, especially Shane. I had to...
Whatever. I've got nerves of steel.
So, yeah, like I said, this was featured on Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters, and the Virginia Paranormal Society checked it out. They do have this entertainment haunted house to go through every year, and I don't think they did it last year because of COVID, but yeah, that's kind of our tradition that we always do, and we always have a lot of fun. I really love it. So there's the house, which is huge, and did I write down how many square footage that is? I can't remember. It's massive. It's a massive house, and so you go through just little parts of it, and then you actually go down into that basement where apparently slaves were kept. Martha was locked away. It's creepy. I couldn't imagine being down there. So then you go out of it, and I think that there were a couple of different little buildings out there. They said one was like a summer kitchen, and attached to it was slave quarters. And then was there another building too that I read had like a separate cauldron and oven and all that stuff? Do you remember from your tour? I can't remember if it's
separate or part of that, but yeah, there is a segment of it that is dedicated to that, and it's pretty neat. I mean, it was, I don't know how many, I don't think I ever found out how many slaves actually were ever there at one time at any given time, but it's pretty good sized facility, so you have to think there was a pretty large population. Yeah,
and I know from looking at your pictures, like, just the house is beautiful, and the slave quarters even looks like nice. Not saying anything about that, but I know what you mean. It's just a very interesting property, and it does just have a feel about it, doesn't it?
It does, and like I said, every single floor has something unique about it, because the Confederate room, which you go up there and it's a little different vibe, and put some pictures up of that too. It's just kind of dark. I don't know. It has a different vibe.
I think that I remember watching the show on the Sci-Fi Channel when it came out years ago, and I know that what really stuck with me was Claire's room.
Yeah.
I mean,
when I left, after I left that day, that really stuck in my mind too, because I was familiar with the other stories going into it. I wasn't familiar with the Clara story, and then you get up there and, just hearing the way that her death happened, and then being in that closet, and then seeing the closet, and then It's just it unnerves you a little bit.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, a lot of people may not buy into that, but I kind of believe that there's something to bad or cursed land. I really do, and I don't know, it just sounds like so much bad things happen there, and for the Graham family, it seemed like bad things continue to happen there with Martha's state of mind and David kind of getting worse, and so I don't know. But
Yeah,
I do feel like it's really haunted, don't you?
I do. I would be very, very reluctant to spend the night there by myself.
Yeah.
I would be very reluctant, and a lot of places don't bother me at all. Or you feel, even if you feel like there's a presence, it's not like that one is a bad presence. You feel like a sad, it's not peaceful.
It's eerie.
It's eerie. Beautiful land, beautiful home. I mean, you think you could get past all that, but when I would go through there, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it's actually less scary during the haunted house time because
Really?
there's so many people there, and
and they kind of make it scary.
yeah, it distracts you from the actual.
But like I said, I always get creeped out going in that basement. It's just creepy. It's,
Like if there's pipes you have to kind of duck under, and it's for the or something.
And I know that you got pictures of like shackles and stuff, and they said that there were etchings down there from Martha, and it's just it's creepy.
In the shackle room, I think the shackles now are kind of set for reenactment type purpose almost.
But they did have them.
Yeah, and they had there was brick covering up other older section where the shackles were from, and it just passed on down, and it was just that room when it's well lit is again just. It wouldn't even have to be the vibe, just knowing the stories and just knowing what that was there for.
Really creeps you out.
It just creeps you. Just think, man, these things really happened. And it's mind-boggling in today's mentality and to think about that kind of thing. But that was
there's
such a
not
common
many
thing.
houses in this area that I know anyways that's still standing in well enough shape to go through that has that much history. So.
And that's the thing too. They get a little every time we talk about them. Every time I have in the past, I get some flack about, they shouldn't use that as a haunted house. It's just like disrespectful, I guess, is what they try to say. But for me, I'm thrilled that they do it because
it keeps some revenue coming in to help keep the house up, because that takes a lot of money.
That's what they told me when I was there. Is much money, I can't remember. I don't want to misquote it, but it was an astounding amount to keep the power to it, water, and all these things on a monthly basis.
Yeah. Plus, if you have to do repairs, you have to think about keeping the integrity of the date of the house. Yeah. And that is more expensive than the more modern stuff too. So I think it's great. I mean, they only take you through a few rooms in the house, and then they actually just take you through different buildings on the property and everything too. So it's not like anybody's coming in there and ripping down walls or anything like that.
Yeah, they got it pretty well controlled, what you can see, and it's pretty well taken care of. So I have no problem with that personally. And the closer they keep it to the authentic aging and everything else, the happier I am about it. Yeah. Because if you came in there and fixed it up, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be genuine.
Well, and as we've seen, they do have like your basic clowns and Michael Myers and that kind of thing, but some two of these dressed up ghosts kind of go along with the historical stories. So for me, that's really neat, because I think it would kind of draw interest into the history of the home for a lot of people that may not normally.
And that's what I love about it, is when you get, it's not a good history by any means, but it is real and it's true, and it's things that need to be remembered.
Interesting, yeah,
it's very interesting, and if you get a chance to go to the haunted house, I highly endorse that, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's more to it than that. Yeah. And if you get a chance to see it in the daytime, I'd super highly recommend that.
I really want to do that sometime too.
If somebody knows Josiah, he can put us in touch with him, and we'll.
Yes, I would love to do that. Yeah.
Sounds great.
So, I think that's all I have for you guys for Major Graham's Mansion. But if you enjoyed this, give us the thumbs up. Comment and let us know what part creeped you out the most. We really want to hear that. Or if you've been through the haunted house and what you thought about that.
Yeah, we'd love the feedback. I love hearing from people who have similar or different experiences either way.
Yeah.
See what you think. So
yeah.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video.
Thanks.